All right, so today we're focusing on word work strategies to support early readers and writers. And first of all, I just wanted to start with an acknowledgement that we are gathered virtually today across many different traditional Indigenous territories across British Columbia. And we want to give thanks to our hosts for this opportunity in this beautiful land that we work, live, play, and learn on together. So thank you all for being here, and we acknowledge our gratitude for the land. So if you haven't met us before, I'm Lisa, and I'm the program manager and teacher consultant for POPEY, and I'm co-presenting today with my lovely colleague, Jen. And there's our contact info if you want to email us. And our website, if you haven't been to it, is popey.ca. And if you got our pre-workshop email, you might have seen that's where the handouts are. And so if you're still looking for them, I'm going to ask Jen to put the link to our handouts page into the chat box. So you can just click on the link there if you see it. But you can go to our POPEY website, and if you click on the professional learning watering can and then our e-handouts, you'll see what you need there. There's an e-handout and a print handout for however you prefer to take notes. And today we're looking at an overview, a very quick dip in and out of essential word work skills and strategies to maximize students' growth as readers and writers. And how we'll be doing that is through a little bit of the theory. So we'll back up what we're showing you with the why and the research. We'll give you time for practice, and we will also do a few models and demonstrations of strategies in action and show some videos of fabulous teachers doing demonstrations of lesson ideas and activities. And then we want to give you lots of opportunities to engage and reflect and chat and share with all of us as a whole group using the chat pod and the reactions buttons, and also in breakout rooms. So we'll do a couple of sessions in breakout rooms where you'll get to chat with some colleagues as well and talk about how some of these strategies, skills, activities can work for you and your students. And when you see the little hand icon, that means it's a hands-on activity. So that's setting you up to go into a breakout room or do an activity. So if you don't have a handout, you might want to, as a little cheat, take a picture of the slide. And that's something you can use then when you're in breakout rooms, because when you're in a breakout room, you won't have access to see the slides that we're sharing anymore. So do what you need to get the info you need to get set up for some good conversations. That's my fancy graphic. And let's jump in. So the first of all, the why and why word study is important. And what we're really wanting to do is set our kids up and help support them to become active word solvers who can recognize words, pull them apart, put them together, know what they mean, and connect them to other words. So really what we're doing with word work is we are enabling our students to become readers and writers. So it is the groundwork for both of those skills. And we want to make sure that our students understand the explicit connection between that word solving is a transferable skill they can put in their toolkit and take around with them. So defining a few key terms here just to start out, there's often confusion around these and they're very similar. So phonological awareness, phonemic awareness, and phonics as a big picture bundle. And I won't read those at you, but they're there just for a reference point. And zooming out a little bit to look at the bigger context of comprehensive literacy instruction, this is where word work fits into the bigger picture. So you can see here we've got those foundational 2 blocks of reading and writing to, with, and by our students. And then word work and all of those concepts and skills are on top, sitting on top of both. So it does provide that bridge between reading and writing. So we want to think about empowering our students with the skills and strategies they need for decoding, which is reading and interacting with texts, but also writing. So encoding, when they turn and take what they've learned about words and are putting it down when they're doing writing as well. And all of that is floating on that sea of oral language, and that's helping us to tap in to find out where the kids are at with their understanding and their knowledge. Another fancy graphic there. So we're wanting to inform and support their progress in as readers and writers. And so if we think about word work that we're doing in the class, the pacing and the content of our word work activities, our supports, our routines, games, songs, it really does need to align with the work that the kids are doing as readers and writers, and you want to keep pace with those through the school year. So introducing high frequency words or adding words to our word wall, We want that to align with the instruction that we're doing so the kids see that there's that connection there, and that strengthens the connections in their brains as well. So if we look at a scope and sequence or an order for how phonological awareness emerges, first of all, it starts with word awareness, and then rhyming and alliteration, being able to segment sentences into words and recognizing that a sentence is made up of different words, and then getting a little smaller and more focused. We can separate and segment words into syllables, and then we can segment words into phonemes as well and start to look at the sounds inside the words. So our very first warm-up activity is we're going to do a name study, and you are all going to get a chance now to sort the letters in your name. This is an activity I had the pleasure of doing at Columbia University when I went for their Phonics Institute. And the way that they set it up, I thought it was really beautiful. Our name is the first word that we loved. And so we can study our names as an entry point for learning our letters and writing and doing other things. So our sample here is Rebecca, which is a nice long name with lots of letters, lots of vowels. And we're going to ask you to write your name down and then see how many words you can make out of the letters. And we'll give you just about 20 seconds. And if you want to get really advanced, you could look at sorting them like we've done here with some of these high frequency CVC words, all of that. And after that 20 seconds, we'll ask you to type your name and then all the words that you found into the chat, or you can do a tally. So if you found 12 words, you could write down your name and write 12. So another way you could extend this or deepen it is have the kids then see if they can sort them into different categories. I wouldn't say to my kindies, oh, just can you split them out and organize them by homophones? But I might have them do vowels if there are any words that have an E in them, or 2-letter words or 3-letter words. You could extend it to have them use it in a sentence and share that sentence orally with a friend, or write it if they're able, or draw a picture and label it. They could make little cards for their desks with their name on it with some of these things, items around it as well. Nicole got 11 words. Way to go, Nicole. So just a fun warm up for you. And then once your kids know how to do this, it's really easy as a routine, even coming back from recess or just before lunch. Get a student to volunteer a word. Maybe it's a science or math or socials vocab word, and everybody can have a go with trying to find how many smaller words they can find in the bigger one. So get some really focused on in a fun way when you have a minute or two in between transitions. Awesome. So now we're going to look a little bit at how and some of the ways we can support essential word work skills and strategies, and how we can do that for our students with explicit lessons. So I'm going to do a pretty quick skip over a few slides of research and content about best practice and proven strategies that support word work. And then we will jump into another activity pretty quickly. So this information comes from the Units of Study in Phonics from the Reading and Writing Project at Columbia. And they've done research with thousands of students in schools across the states, a lot focused in New York State, because obviously Columbia is in New York. And they've come up with these principles for word work. So it needs to be transferable to students' reading and writing, which we've talked about already. It needs to be efficient, so we don't want to drag it out or make it too heavy or too long. So it's one part of the literacy day, along with the reading and the writing and the talking and the thinking that's happening. It's got to be strategy based. So we're teaching a strategy that they need and helping them know also how, when, and why they're going to want to use that strategy. So it's not just in isolation, it's connected to the reasoning and the rationale and when they're going to need it. And then of course we want to make it engaging. So stories, games, songs, chants, poems, manipulatives, getting up and moving. And really what the goal is, we want 90% of our students to be engaged at least 90% of the time. And that's great buy-in and that's great engagement. So if we're not getting that level of high engagement, we might want to think about adding in some movement, music, song, poetry, manipulatives to try and raise that level of engagement. And we need to know what we're teaching and why, and so what our choices are, and that it's flexible enough and open-ended enough to support all the learners in the classroom. So that's why we really like that name study, because pretty much any student in the class could engage with it to some level, even if to start with they worked in partners or buddies or small groups to do that as well. And they could each take turns both focusing on one name and then do it together and build that in as a routine. So the repetition and them understanding how and when they'd use a strategy is important too. So if you are teaching explicit word work lessons, even if it's just a 15-20 minute lesson or a 10-minute mini lesson, the components are this, and again, this comes from the Reading and Writing Project. We're wanting to teach a whole class lesson and explain what the skill or the strategy is. We want them to apply it with some hands-on practice. We are acting as a coach and a guide and seeing where our support is needed. And then we want to share out as a whole class again in a wrap up and have kids share discoveries or connections that we made. And that gives us a chance to give some feedback or get some feedback based on how the kids are processing what they're sharing. Did they get it, or do I need to clarify something else as well? And then we want to make that connection to reading and writing and say, okay, you're going to use this now when you're reading in your choice book, or you're going to use this skill when you go and do that writing that we're going to do this afternoon, and suggest ways we can extend it for a homeschool connection as well. But again, placing it in the context so kids know it's not an isolated one-off, but this is helping them become better readers and writers. So effective routines for developing word solvers, lots of experiences with this every day, these kinds of things. So what Jen and I did when we were building this workshop is we wanted to make sure it was filled with these types of activities: charts, sorts, segmenting, blending, word wall activities, and guessing games. And if we're going to hopefully find engagement and some fun with this, I think our kids will too. And so that's happening, as well as giving them the opportunities to do word study in text. So the most part of our session today is focusing in on those isolated activities out of text. So those word study concepts, phonological awareness, spelling, high frequency words, word structure, word solving in isolation, as laying the groundwork for then being able to do it in text as well. So we'll do a few activities out of text, and then we'll wrap up the session doing one in text, where we're going to do a reading activity together and have you do some word solving in an interactive read aloud. And there's that oral language piece again. All right. So some of these first activities for out of text, we've got a video here to share with you from the Balanced Literacy Diet, and they come out of the University of Toronto. And this teacher does a really nice word wall I Spy game with her kids. So we'll play this for you. This is our modeling and demonstration. We're asking this lovely teacher to do our demo lesson for us. And then we're going to get you into your first breakout rooms, and you'll have a chance to play word wall I Spy with colleagues.
All right, so Lisa, you were probably just starting to talk about the power of this kind of high impact instruction. So looking at word families can really help our students spell a huge amount of words. So when we look at how we can provide this kind of high impact instruction, we're really using what the students know to help them continue their learning. So using word analogies, if a student knows how to spell fit, then we can help them spell kit and sit. So this kind of instruction really allows us to empower our students to see how that they can manipulate words and have control over the types of words that they are building. And it also kind of demystifies language for our very, very beginning readers and writers. Okay, so we have a couple of resources that can help in classrooms. We were just talking about that, my partner and I, in our breakout room. So there's this wonderful word families chart and some alphabet charts. These are all kept on our home learning part of our website. So they were developed to really support teachers who are supporting students through home learning. So all of these wonderful resources are available for you to use. And let's see what these look like in action. So I'm going to introduce you to a video, and this video is on our YouTube page, so you can always go back to it and check it out further. But we're going to look at what making words can look like and how students can use what they already know to continue their learning independently. So I'm not going to play the whole video based on time, but I'm going to show you short sections of this so you can take a look.
Readers and writers, there's a really fun game that we can play to help us to become fantastic word solvers, and it's called Making Words. One way we can play this game is to start with a small word that we know. I'm going to start with the word at. This is a great word, a power word that we can use to help us to spell tons of other words. To give myself some ideas of other words that I can make, I can use my alphabet chart to see what other letters might make sense with the word at. I put another sound at the beginning. So I already have an A for at, b, at, bat. Hey, that sounds like a good letter that I could add. Why don't I do that? So now I can make a letter B, b, at, and if I crash all my sounds together, it makes the word bat. I can do this with other letters that I wrote down off of my alphabet chart, like k, at, cat, or h, at, hat, or
Okay, I'm just going to fast forward here for a moment and show you a
when
little
playing the
bit more.
Making Word game, it can be really fun just to take my letter cards and make my new words and then read them as I crash them together, b, at, bat. But also if I then write them down, I can see which words I've made, and then I can use them later in a story or in sentences. So maybe I have a whiteboard and I can write down the words that I make. H, at, hat. S, at, sat. Maybe I
Okay, I'm going to stop it there because you have the idea of how we're making words. And again, just really focusing on empowering our students to give them control over manipulating words and for them to really feel that in that very early beginning writing time that they are empowered as writers and that they can continue to continue their learning that way. So another way that we can empower our students through a different strategy is working more with sound boxes or Alkonin boxes. Alkonin was a Russian psychologist who was a pioneer in this kind of instructional strategy. So it's looking at how letters connect to sounds and really getting that student to segment throughout the word so that they can focus on specific sounds and blends in sounds. Another really good thing that Alkonin boxes does is really solidify the directionality that is important within words. So we focus a lot on directionality when we're printing sentences and when we're reading, but when we're writing, sometimes our students get a little confused as early writers because they might often, when they say a word or they hear us say a word, like bat, the last sound that they hear is a t sound. So that sometimes is a sound that they focus on. So as we use Alkonin boxes and focusing on directionality, that's a really good strategy for our students to have as well. This also can lead really well into letter boxes, which can help with spelling. So once our students have the phonemic awareness, the sound letter match, then we can move them beyond that as well with the same kind of instructional strategy. So here's an example of what that can look like. Okay, so hopefully you had a chance to see what that looks like in action and notice the focus on directionality, the focus on the sounds and blends that can help our students be more empowered with their own writing. So another thing that I'm going to share with you today is around vowel charts. So as we know from working with young children, vowels are tricky. It's a really difficult thing to work with young children and their beginning readers and writers on vowels. And that's because they're difficult to hear and they're difficult to distinguish. One way that we can work on our vowels is to just specifically teach through a fun way how to manipulate words and what that can sound like when we change out vowel sounds. So we have a couple of resources here as well. They're all on our home learning page. Feel free to download and use whatever can be helpful for you and your students. There's a vowel chart, another kind of vowel chart that has long and short sounds, and even vowel teams. So anything that can be helpful for you in the classroom, share, use and let us know how it's going and how you're using them. So we're going to take a look at this word ladders video. So this is another one created by POPEY, and it is on our YouTube channel. I don't think I'll show you the whole thing because of time, but take a look at how we can use a fun kind of activity like word ladders to focus on, again, manipulating words so that our students get to know the ownership, take that ownership for manipulation of words, and know how easy it is for them to try this out and see where they go with it. Okay, so here we go.
Word solvers, we're going to play a fun game today called Word Ladders. To play Word Ladders, we're going to start with one word and then change one letter at a time to make a new word. So let's take a look at how we can play the game Word Ladders. Let's start with the word bed. We spell that B-E-D. B-E-D spells bed. Next, I'm going to keep the letter B and keep the letter E and change the last letter to a T. B-E-T spells bet. I'm going to keep the letter B for the next word and keep the letter T, but change the middle letter to the letter A, makes the A sound. B-A-T spells bat. For the next word, I can keep the A sound or the letter A and the T and change the first letter to the letter S, which makes the S sound. S-A-T spells sat.
Okay, just due to time, I'm going to cut the video there because you had some time to check this out and see how it works, and also you can revisit again on our YouTube channel. So, Lisa, what do you think about breakout rooms for this one? I can't see you in my thing, so in my view. So if you could unmute yourself and let me know.
Thank you. We've got 20 breakout rooms set up, mostly groups of 4. So the breakout rooms will work so we can have people do this activity in small groups.
Awesome. I just wanted to check in with you, make sure that that will work.
Thank you.
Okay, so this will be a chance for you to have some fun with this activity. If you didn't have the handout printed out, you might want to take a quick screenshot or a photo of this page because it will give you some ideas of where to start. So we have a completed word ladder on the side there and some other ones for you to get started with when you're working with your group. So in your small group, in your breakout group, you are going to try this out. Change just one letter, create a new word. For example, you could replace the M with the B to create in make and then create bake. Okay, so you have some modeling there and you can have some fun with this and enjoy this collegial time to talk with other teachers around the province. So now we're going to take a look at what this looks like, what our word work instruction can look like when we connect it directly to text. So using a specific word work instruction, but then linking it into text so that we're reinforcing that this is what we expect our students to be doing as they're reading and writing text. Okay, So we're going to do an interactive read aloud, like Lisa mentioned at the beginning. We're going to listen to the book Rhyming Dust Bunnies. If you haven't read it, you'll love it. So great. And throughout the book, you're going to hear 4 word families: are, ug, og, and at. So we're going to do some prediction. What words from these 4 word families might you expect to hear in the book? So I'm going to have you write in the chat box what your predictions are. So for example, there might be car, bar, rug. So start typing away.
I put in my guesses, even though I do know the book, so it wasn't really fair, but I feel pretty excited and confident that my words are in the book. But
nice work. Okay, we're getting lots of different words in there. Mug, lug, is that a word?
Lug's a word, mug, lug.
Yeah. Oh, great. Yes. Lug, yes. Nice work, Amanda.
Oh, Tara, look at Nicole, great.
Okay, tons of predictions. So keep them coming. What I'm going to have you do as we listen to this book is when you hear a word that you had predicted and wrote into the chat box, or one that you saw in the chat box, I'm going to have you use the reactions, either the thumbs up or the clapping, that are on your tool thing. What are we calling this? Toolbox?
Toolbar.
Toolbar, thank you, down below. Okay, so hopefully there's lots of people with lots of reactions happening on their screens as we listen to this short books together. So great. Okay, so I was scrolling through your videos, your pictures, and seeing lots of reactions. So thank you for taking part in that fun activity. It's a great one to get your students really involved and engaged as they're practicing their word work and connecting to reading. So as we look back at this past hour, in 1 hour, we experienced all of these different kinds of word work strategies and different ways that we can engage with our students in word work. And isn't that amazing? We did all that in just an hour. So hopefully you got some great ideas to come away with. And just as we're finishing up here, the English language gets a bad reputation for being, for having so many irregularities and so many different rules to follow. But in fact, we can really set our students up for success when we teach very specific word solving strategies so that they can fill their toolbox and be able to pull them out as they're working with words in reading and writing. So as a final reflection, we're going to do a quick poll so that you can make it, so you can kind of think about what you've been talking about, what you're going to take away. So what you've been talking about in the chat rooms, chat boxes and breakout rooms, what you're going to take away, what you're maybe going to try out with your students really soon. So Lisa's going to launch a poll that will give us some time to reflect on those things.
Yeah, so one of the things that's helpful for us when we do face-to-face workshops is getting that feedback from you, what aspects of the workshop you valued. So the same thing here, even though most of us only had one breakout room, you might have found that small group time really, really powerful. And so we're asking you just to reflect on the session and let us know what you valued, and then what are you looking ahead, which of these activities would you be most likely to try out next week? So it's an anonymous poll. I'll launch it there. You should see it and you should be able to click your answer on just those 2 questions. And for question 2, you might have to scroll down a little bit to see all of the options.
Okay, it looks like people are starting to answer the poll. Excellent.
Yeah, are you seeing that, Jen? Can you see the answers coming in?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not seeing the percentage done, but we'll maybe give you another.
We have 77% voted.
Oh, fantastic. Maybe another 10 or 15 seconds to answer?
Yeah.
And then Jen, I'm not seeing the results, so maybe I'll get you to take a screenshot.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, we will, is it all right to end it there? That's been a minute.
Sorry, just one sec. I can't take a screenshot of that, but I'll take a photo.
I'm going to share the results. Hopefully you're seeing that. I can't see the results. It's keeping me in suspense. What were the big winners?
Oh, we have, oh, maybe because, am I supposed to show the results? I'm not sure.
No, that's okay. If you can see it, that's right.
So activities modeled was a big hit.
Great.
Followed by resources shared, and Word While I Spy got the highest rating for things that people would try.
Oh, very good.
And then actually all the other activities were shortly afterwards. So making words, Elk Box is a main study.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, I'm glad you can all see it. Thanks, Amy and Amanda. Let me know you can see it. Joanne, yes, we're very glad that Halloween's on a weekend this year.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
Woohoo!
Okay, oops. I'm just going to continue on. And these are some of the other videos that are available on our YouTube channel. So you saw today word ladders and making words. So you can check those out. These are the sources that we used to build our workshop this afternoon. If there's anything there that you wanted to delve more deeply into, they're all listed there for you to check out. And again, there's Lisa's and our contact information, our contact info, like email. So it's a really easy to get a hold of us if you'd like to have some more information about anything, check anything out. There's our POPEY website.